Hi, I'm Alex Altman, and I decided to analyze a piece by Chopin that is Nocturne, Opus 27, number 2. Chopin has always been my favorite composer when I have decided to listen to this area of music. Taking this class has allowed me to realize that I can't just call it classical music because he's actually more in the Romantic era, which we are going to get into in this video. But yes, Chopin is one of my favorite composers, if not my favorite. I'm also a big fan of Ravel. So Opus 27, number 2, it is a nocturne. A little background story that I needed to more understand kind of thought processes and all. Nocturnes were actually invented, I guess you could say, by an Irish man. His name was John Field. He released, I guess, the first nocturnes, and Chopin's takes on these nocturnes is what, kind of snowballed into Chopin's nocturnes, which are some of his most famous works, but I would also say his other works, his mazurkas and polonaises. Polonaise. Okay, so I was right. Chopin isn't French. That is something that's common. I actually think I thought he was French before even working on this listening project. He's actually Polish, and so a lot of his works are going to be nationalism, kind of patriotic Polish works, mazurkas, polonaise, we'll say that's right. And these are actually 2 of, I think, 5 of the historic national dance music styles in Poland. So he was very patriotic with those works, and these nocturnes were kind of his branch away, almost his going to France, because I know he lived in France, from Poland to France. So it's kind of breaking away from that, keeping his roots, but he broke away little. This allowed him musical freedom, and he could work around with harmonies and just kind of flow with it while tying in French roots, Polish roots, everything about him. So more on nocturnes is nocturne is actually equivocal to nocturnal, which we know nocturnal is night. So these are supposed to feel almost like something you want to listen to at night. One of my big things I love music is I have playlists for songs that are good at driving at night. It's supposed to fit into a category almost of what you may hear at night. What I like to think of is it's dreamlike. It's the feeling of your eyelids getting a little droopy, falling asleep, but you're calm. Similar to how the Moonlight Sonata became known as the Moonlight Sonata, and as stated in one of our lectures, just the fact that different areas of the day have kind of different vibes to them. So some people in the morning may be tired, some people in the morning may be huzzah, but it's just fitting into the category of nighttime where we're resting, the day is over, we have a calm, peaceful, nice feeling, and sometimes that feeling may also be impending doom, which is not crazy to say, because some people, their nighttime is, I'm going to bed, I'm about to wake up and have another day, or I want to just keep the day going, I don't want to have to wait and rest, So there's positives and negatives to this nighttime feeling, and I feel like Opus 27 number 2 has that beautiful feeling, but it also kind of has a haunting, overlurking feeling. And in this feeling, it's positive nighttime, but I think of being out in the woods, maybe dark woods with fog coming in, and there's some fog, so it's beautiful, but maybe there's something out there. Maybe I have a feeling of doom, or a feeling that's haunting me, that something's in the woods. So that's kind of something I see while listening to this piece. So to get more into the nitty gritty, this work is a solo piano work. Although it is a solo piano, I feel like I hear the 2 registers, the lower register, the left hand, and the higher register, the right hand. I feel like I hear them as different points, and which is very common in piano music, but I hear them as harmonious, yes, but each kind of separately working together to get to the main point. And that is a big thing I noticed in this work, is that the left hand, while playing its lower register, it's playing these repetitive arpeggios of 6 16th notes, and that to me has that feeling of kind of the haunting coming in, because we have this low register down here kind of playing a repetitive sound in these arpeggios, or maybe signifying heartbeat, how I'm noticing my heartbeat when I'm outside, seeing this fog. noticing these things. So yeah, we have the left hand doing the arpeggios. Simultaneously, we have the right hand at a higher register playing the melody, which the melody is repeated multiple times throughout the work before getting to the climax. It's even repeated at the end, but I'll get into a bit more detail with that. So at the beginning, we have these left hand repetitive, and then we have the right hand with a legato melody. There are also differences in the dynamic between these two. The left hand to me has a bit of a mezzo piano sound, and it's kind of light. It's there, and we notice it's there, but it's not what we're focusing on. Really, I feel like we're focusing on this melody, which has more of a mezzo. The only times this changes, other than the climax and at the end, I feel like is when there is a harmonious note played between the two, and they begin kind of a dance together. Those sounds both turn into almost like a mezzo forte, and it gets a bit louder. I feel like that works hand in hand with us hearing a harmonious measure being played, or a few measures. To add in there, I did look at the sheet music to kind of get an idea more of what I'm agreeing on, and there were words mentioned there that I'd like to note out. One of those is lento sostenuto, and that is what it is primarily marked with, and that, after doing a little bit of Google Translate into slow and sustained. So again, we have this kind of hypnotizing sound. Even the pianist knows to make it hypnotizing and kind of slow. In contrast to the legato, most of the work is done in legato. But the difference I feel is in the climax, where some staccato is present. It may be that so many notes are fit into one measure, the 6/8 tempo, so many notes are fit into this measure that it seems that you can't go without being a little staccato, but it's played in such a harmony that it is still legato, even though you're playing so many notes, and it's kind of has a staccato look to it on paper. It's really much of the first measures, maybe past half of all of the measures in the work, are going to be this melody played alongside a lower arpeggio. So it's like coming to an agreement, and then we're listening to this agreement, and we're slowly working our way to the climax. Each time, though, we think we're about to get the climax, right? I think a few measures before the actual climax, we have kind of a false build-up, false climax, where you're like, oh, here it is, and then we go right back. But then we get the climax. So at about 3 minutes, 37 seconds, we have the climax. Words that I noticed on the sheet music were con forza and con anima. So con forza is with force. We're emphasizing, we're playing robustly. Con anima is with spirit. We have spirit, so we finally came to this agreement. These two different yet coexisting mediums are coming together, creating a beautiful sound. Although short-lived, it leaves an impact. Although it is much less time spent in the climax compared to the rest of the song, this leaves an impact. This is what we've been waiting for. We finally reach it, and it's very beautifully diminished. At 4:07, we see even more words. We see con forza again, we see crescendo, and we see appassionato. These three words still are very strong. With crescendo, definitely, we see a climax. And then at 4 minutes, 34 seconds, we get some words that tell us that this climax is switching off. When first listening, I was wondering how you could end the work after having such a robust and dramatic climax that is so different from the melody that we've heard so far. And Chopin did it perfectly. So the words we see here are dolcis, diminuendo, we also see calando, and we even see smorzando. All of these kind of equivocate a decrease in tempo and a decrease in the loudness. So during the climax, we're at forte, maybe even fortissimo. It's kind of like slapping us in the face. And now we're trying to kind of wean ourselves out of this. So we're going back to playing softly. Something to point out, dolcis is similar, even though that's Italian, similar to dulce. I guess dolce is Italian, which is like sweet, sweetly. We're content with what we've just heard, and now we're trying to put ourselves to rest. Maybe one might say that we were in the fog and we're trying to escape this forest with the fog, and we finally see a light, we see a town, we're getting to it, and we finally make it to this place of safety, and we know we can get some rest. And so we're kind of calming down, we know we're safe, and we're in a place where rest is there and rest is possible. And we're hearing like lullabies and we're hearing all these soft sounds, and what we once felt before, we're slowly returning to. So I always, with these words, like to imagine what the pianist looks like, because we can never forget the pianist in this. We have the pianist and we have the piano. If I were to be watching a pianist play this on stage, I would imagine with the first few words like forza, anima, crescendo, appassionato, that the pianist is throwing his hands in the air as he plays. You can see his hands going up. And once he gets to this point of rest and this kind of decrescendo after the climax, you can see all the tenseness just kind of disappear. You can see him meticulously playing the notes, kind of playing each with purpose. But also it seems maybe even swaying, going into a dreamlike state, because that's just what the music is bringing him to and what the crowd should be feeling as well. And then with really each few measures after the climax, we slowly kind of break down. We get a recapitulation of the melody from before the climax. We're slowly just kind of packing things up, laying down, we're back to safety. I want to make one more parallel that kind of gave you a reason for why I chose this work, other than the fact that Chopin is my favorite composer, but also something that drew me to this specific nocturne was the feeling I got while listening to it. So I just explained this fog, being in the woods, trying to escape, finally finding safety. I kind of came up with that on the fly just now. But when trying to picture something while listening to music, which is what my mother always taught us to do, I thought of myself while running, so I am a runner, and I thought about the beginning of the race. I've started out, I'm trying to get my tempo to match my feet, to match my breathing, to match where my mindset is. And everything, it's not scattered. So of course there is going to be a rhythm, but maybe it's not exactly the perfect, most harmonious rhythm. Although there is harmony there, it's not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to keep working to get there. There may be times when I get it, then I slow back down. Then I get it, slow back down. Maybe I'm on some switchbacks going back and forth, getting it, kind of losing it, getting it, losing it. But then I get into this groove, and that's when I'm at the climax of the song. So I'm in this groove. Maybe I'm at the last 500 feet where I'm sprinting in. My time is good, my tempo is good, my breathing has matched my feet. Finally, everything is in order, and I'm just trying to get to that finish line. My feet are running faster. That's where you can get that staccato, but they're still in motion with each other. They're still in harmony with each other. So they still have the legato feel. There's still kind of a pattern there, and it's still all connected instead of just staccato kind of. And then finally I cross the finish line and I'm done. So I'm not gonna run anymore. I don't want any more climax. I feel pretty strongly about what I've just done. I wanna calm down. Everything doesn't feel as rushed. I can now take a break, put my feet up, go home, get some food. I'm just at this place of safety. That's mainly what this whole nocturne is about, is reaching that harmony and then finally resting. So, yep. Similar to how the Moonlight Sonata became known as the Moonlight Sonata, just like the feeling of being in the moonlight and it being nighttime before the climax. We get a recapitulation, even though it's still legato, it's just so quick that it's just so quick.